It's about time you showed up. We summoned you like 30 minutes ago.
Are you actually recording, Craig? Because if you're not, I'm calling your mom.
Ooh.
Get to work, you slack ass. That's a word I haven't heard in a long time. Pretty sure my dad used to call me that, a slack ass.
Are you just thinking of that 70s show?
Never
Just calling everybody a jackass.
Jackass. I mean, I love that show. Jackass was great. Never watched that 70s show though.
It was an okay show. I watched a little bit of it.
I mean, yeah, I've seen a couple episodes, but
I can't stand shows that have a laugh track anymore.
It's
like
hard.
Yeah. The second I hear one, I just turn the show off. It's like I'm done. I can't.
Yeah, I was hanging out with my brother yesterday, and he was watching old episodes of Home Improvements, which, mind you, was a great show, but it had a laugh track. And like, I'm just watching this, and every time they say something that should be funny, you got this background laughter. I'm like, well, was it really funny? Did it really deserve that much laughter?
Yeah, it's a lot of people are like, talking up Friends and recently, and I remember seeing just like clips of the show, and just the clips in the laugh track is enough to basically go, you know what? I'm not going to listen to this. It is not my cup of tea.
Friends was never my cup of tea. It just wasn't. I didn't really watch a lot of sitcoms by that point.
So, welcome to Grumpy Sitcoms.
Yeah, welcome to Grumpy Sitcoms. I'm Jay.
And I'm Chris, and we're going to talk about sitcoms for the next hour.
Yay!
So, what was your favorite show from the 90s? Mine was Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Jackass. It probably was Jackass. That or Beavis and Butthead.
But that's not a sitcom. Neither of those are sitcoms.
Well, you didn't say that. You said, "What's your favorite show?"
Oh, what's your favorite sitcom from the 90s?
I honestly can't even name one from the 90s other than like Friends, Seinfeld, Friends, and I didn't watch any of them. Like, I just didn't watch sitcoms from the 90s.
Yeah, we just toiled away with our D&D books, becoming more and more reclusive as we tried to get people to play our tabletop games.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I was just playing lots of Nintendo games. I didn't have friends.
I had a lot of both. I played a lot of video games, and I played a lot of D&D through the 90s. At least actually through all of the 90s, because I started playing in 1990.
I think I had like 3 friends, maybe 4.
I moved constantly growing up, so everywhere I'd go, I'd just meet new people. It was the only way I'd be able to have friends or talk to people, so didn't really have a choice. I learned to be social. But that has nothing to do with what we're discussing tonight.
What are we discussing tonight?
Well, I think we're going to discuss me having actually run your module.
Oh, speaking of that, I actually got a wonderful review from somebody who ran my Dread of the Ice Devil module.
That was your first one. So.
Yeah. She sent me a whole email with like a conversation, and she said what she liked and what she didn't like, and it took her 7 hours to complete it, but it was the first time she ever ran a D&D game.
Oh wow. So somebody's first DMing was with your module.
Right.
Awesome. I mean, it's well written enough that somebody was able to do it and was confident enough to do it, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, they added a few things to the mountain encounters as well. It looks like they added like a couple ice giant skeletons and owlbears and crag cats, and they were level 6 players, which is a lot.
That is a lot. That module is not intended for that many.
Ooh. So 2 veteran players, 1 person never played. What?
I was gonna say it's for a 4th level characters, isn't it? 4th and 5th. 5th. Okay, so 6 level 6. You're gonna have to add a little extra.
Well, even so, she said that in the final encounter, they basically got 1 round away from the ice devil getting released. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And at that point, you lose.
Well, actually, 6 level 6 players versus an ice devil without a spear.
Okay, that's possibly doable.
Yeah, it depends on how tapped they are after that fight leading up to it.
Yeah, yeah. Ice Devil's CR11, I think. I
Yeah.
don't remember exactly, but it's somewhere in that range. But without the trident or spear, it makes it a little easier. Then it just has claw attacks.
I tell you what, though, my modules almost fits perfectly for a um, taking what it essentially is about and adding it to the Icewind Dale campaign and just focusing on that. There's a whole branch of stuff you can do with that because just it ties in together so well and just randomly. It's
Uh,
very
spe-
interesting.
Speaking of adding things, like when I really enjoyed running your module, but I do wish I had added more to it. Because my players skipped over part of it, which you were able to do, which
Yeah.
ended up like the whole module took us 3 hours. Even if they had hit all of the encounters, it would have been 4 hours. Which for a lot of people, a 4 hour game session's about what they want. My group, we tend to play longer, so I should have, I could have easily just thrown in encounters because there is travel time.
Yeah. And I cut so much out of Everyone's Been Naughty to keep it under 4. Kind of
Mhm.
needed to do everything in order to do that.
Yeah,
But
like yeah. I know you tried to shorten it down intentionally for the DM's guild and so forth, but that's the beauty of modules or even campaigns that are pre-written. Is as the DM, it's your prerogative. You can alter whatever the hell you want, as you well know, because your players are not following Icewind Dale the way it's supposed to be followed.
I had to spend all day today doing research on stuff just to kind of figure out how to tie in everything together and how to change the bad guys and focus
Yep.
them the right way. And I had to go reference the Crystal Shard adventure. I had to reference the Crystal Shard novel. I had to talk to the author of the Crystal Shard adventure and novels, and not Salvatore, another guy, um, in order to figure things out. I have gone above and beyond, I think,
I
to
think so. So people should watch your fucking stream.
yeah.
Especially if they have run Icewind Dale, they need to watch your stream just to see how you're altering it because of what your players are doing.
And the thing is, too, it's like they're not altering it outside of like what you should be in a way. They're just doing what makes sense. They're not trying to intentionally change things, but it's like, yeah, that makes sense for you to do. Go ahead and do it.
I mean,
Let me just
if my players were doing what yours were doing, I would be doing the same thing you're doing. Yeah, my players have been very kind to me with Icewind Dale. They're sticking to the script. Yeah, they're playing the good guys as more or less. I say that with quotations, but they're not really. They're not causing havoc.
like
Makes
I
my
would
life.
really like it for like my players to then when I finish this campaign setting to make new characters and then have like you run them through it because it will be an entirely different game.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would.
Uh,
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't have the same style of play, and whereas you are adding in a lot of extra stuff, I'm really and truly just sort of sticking to the campaign as it's written.
well, like I am sticking to the campaign as it's written. Like I've added in a few random encounters, but they're all from the book.
Hmm.
It's just the outcomes of these little side trips essentially are they're just not going the way the book even foreseen. Like there's no option for the stuff that they're doing, and that's fine. That happens, but it's like you were playing the Waterdeep campaign setting, and the entire thing in Waterdeep is for you to re- recover the MacGuffin and find the vault full of 500,000 dragons, the gold coins. And your players went, okay, that's cool. And when they got to Troll Skull Manor, they went, you know what? We're retiring from adventuring and we're just going to build this manor out and we're just going to just live here for a little bit. Now, the book actually does have things for if that happens,
Hmm.
but still, it's like the plot's over there, guys, and you're way over
Those,
here. But the thing is, they're not that far off the plot. They have goals. They know exactly what they're going to do. they're following the direction the book is leading them, but they're in the upside down.
Yeah, the thing is, what's happening and what you're describing is what you expect in a homebrew campaign, not
Hmm.
what you expect in a pre-written D&D authentic campaign. And it's not wrong that it's going off book, but it's not what's intended,
Yeah.
and it's fucking awesome in my opinion. I love that it's happening.
Yeah, like I said, if you do listen to this and you're not watching us playing on Saturdays at 8 o'clock on Twitch, then you're
.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters.
really missing out because they're doing a fantastic job. And I have them uploaded to YouTube. I just got to cut out some of the dead space, and kind of just put them up there so you could watch the whole thing from beginning to end. I just don't have
If nothing else,
video skills.
they can
So
watch them on Twitch. At least I know for a
no,
while.
yeah, Twitch drops it after 14 days.
Yeah.
So there's a rerun every Wednesday of the previous session, but that's the best I can do.
But anyway, so I ran your module, which went splendidly. The players absolutely fucking loved it. So let me kind of go over the nonsense. You have to understand, my players, especially when it comes to one shots, are absolute and utter goofballs. Like, it's not taken seriously. It never will be, because it's a one shot. So they just throw stuff together to have a little fun. This being the everyone's naughty thing, you actually had the archetypes that they could pick from, and two of them actually used the archetypes from your book. And then there
Okay.
were two other archetypes that were used from another Christmas themed book that I had access to. And I'll have to find the exact name of that one at some point and get it posted up. But they're basically the two from the other book. They played a Paladin of the Lamp, which is sort of a light based paladin, and one of them played a rogue from that same book that was frost based. I can't recall the exact name of it, but basically they could do frost damage instead of sneak attack damage if they wanted to, which honestly isn't a big deal. Then from your module, one of them played a goblin toy maker, and then one of them played the ranger of the reindeer. What was it
The
called?
Bond
Do
of the
you remember?
Reindeer.
Bond of the Reindeer, yeah. And at the level they're at, like, most of the abilities you don't even get access to, so it wasn't a huge thing. The toy maker, however, is very, very different and added a lot of stuff to it. And he did get to play around with the bag of toys a little later in the adventure, which he didn't get the fun ones. The very first time he pulled from the toy bag, he hit the number one, which is the dead space. It's where you pull out the fucking eggs.
Yeah.
What do they call those things? The Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah, nesting doll.
Yeah, he pulled out the nesting dolls of the companions. With and the very
Mhm.
last one that he pulls out is the Dristuard sold separately. So, yeah, he was like, "Well, damn." Then he ended up pulling a couple of others later on over the course of the night. One of them was the one that hit. You get like four different choices of what to do. Uh, I think it was four or five choices. Somebody heals this many hit points. Somebody takes this much damage. Somebody else gets a +4 to the next roll. Somebody else gets a minus to the next roll. He ended up hitting that one twice.
Okay. That's the Gygax dice one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, the Gygax dice. He also hit the Jarl Axle one that throws knives at people. He hit that during the Santa Claus fight.
So did he? So it was very rare that he used the toys, or just kind of meh.
He didn't. Well, he plays a lot of spellcasters like I do, and if you play a lot of spellcasters, you learn to conserve what you have.
Mm.
So he wasn't going to use it in the fights until it needed to be used.
Okay.
And the only they had the initial fight with the not the abominable snowman, but the snow golem or whatever it was called, and the methods. And I think he used that. Yeah, that's where he pulled up the nesting doll, was in that fight. And the only other fight that they had was against Santa Claus, if I
Mm.
recall. Yeah, like
Yeah, they
There's
skipped 2 of the fights essentially.
let's see, they skipped the Krampus fight. What other fight was there? There was the
The snow,
possibility of the
this,
Frosty.
yeah, yeah, the Frosty fight. Yeah.
I know, and I'm so fucking disappointed in my players. I'm so disappointed. 99% of the time, if my players have the ability to put on a top hat that's sitting on the ground, they're going to put on a fucking top hat sitting on the ground. I don't know what happened this time. But anyway, I get ahead of myself. So the initial fight, they end up fighting all of the methods and the snow golem. And for the snow golem, so I'm playing this on Roll20. The methods, I just downloaded pictures of methods, threw them on there. For the snow golem, I used the abominable snowman from the old Rudolph animated. So
Okay,
he
I
looked,
mean that works.
yeah. I thought it worked. For Santa Claus, well, I'll get back to Santa Claus. I had a really good picture for Santa Claus. So then they meet. They finish that up. They meet Frosty, the Portal Mancer, and I played him up so much because the way you have him written in the module is he's super fucking depressed.
Yeah.
Like he is Debbie Downer. He is gonna bring the party down to a grinding halt. And they show up and they start having this conversation with him, and I pull out my like best Eeyore impression. Oh no. Why even bother? What do you want? Just constantly doing that. And they start talking about what they want. And at that point, I'm like, oh, geez, why don't we do what you want? Never mind what I actually want. They were just, they hated him so much. Uh, in the module, though, you can talk him into actually portaling them without without you know getting rid of himself in the process.
Yeah.
They had to roll. They needed
Super high.
it was
Yeah.
super high. They needed a 20 in a persuasion check, and be damned if somebody didn't like what first roll 21. Well, all right, you managed to talk this Debbie Downer bastard into teleporting you where you need to go. So that worked out in their favor. And they had the option. They figured out that they had the option to go to either Krampus or to Santa Claus. And they had kind of picked up that things, they definitely had picked up that things weren't right, that the winter cycle was in trouble, but they didn't know exactly what was going on. So they figured rather than go talk to Krampus, who's probably going to pick a fight with them because he's the bad guy, let's go talk to Santa Claus because he's Santa Claus. He's the good guy. Eh, yeah. So they show up at Santa's workshop. They break in. They have to fight the Beholder toy and the Owlbear toy, which just freaked them the fuck out that this little floating Beholder toy is shooting disintegration beams and stuff at them. They ended up having to fight all of the elves too because they ended up attacking them or said something. I don't remember what it was. So
You just
they
gotta hit them once and that's it.
yeah. I think they said something about Santa Claus. They talked shit about Santa or something, and that sort of
Okay.
set the elves off. But they end up getting through that encounter. They get into Santa's office, and I love my players so much because we all sort of think the same way. They open up the door and I reveal it on the screen. And I had downloaded a picture of Bill Goldberg from Santa's sleigh.
Okay.
And immediately one of my players is like, nope, fuck this. I'm out of here. Nope. He didn't want anything to do with Bill Goldberg from Santa's sleigh. And if you have not seen the movie, it's one of the best Christmas movies ever.
I have not, but I'll put
Oh,
on the list.
it's so fucking good. It's so funny. They end up duking it. I read through the exact text that you've written for it, which is amazing, by the way. And my players thought it was the best thing ever because it breaks the fourth wall. You name the players in this script. You don't name the characters. You name the players and tell them that they have been naughty because they are playing Dungeons and Dragons rather than helping people.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's fucking brilliant. They loved it. I loved it. And then they got to duke it out with Santa, who is one tough son of a bitch and probably would have wiped the party if I didn't pull couple of little punches here and there. And some of it was me pulling punches, some of it was me forgetting what was supposed to be happening because Santa has so much shit he can do. Like he has so many utilities in that module.
Yeah. Well, it's just a one-person fight. You gotta have it.
Yeah, yeah.
You gotta have
Like
it tough.
the first round, I remembered the lair action. Then I ended up actually forgetting it like for 2 rounds, which could have easily have made a big difference in the fight. I forgot his legendary actions occasionally, once on purpose, once a couple of times just because I forgot he could do those.
Hmm.
But he was a pretty tough fight. He hits like a fucking truck.
That's all I know how to write.
It's
Just
not
Mac
wrong.
truck.
Yeah, like it wasn't wrong. Nothing was wrong in the encounter. The encounter would have been easier if they actually had a cleric, which they didn't, or even a fifth person. Like a fifth person, I probably would have. A fifth person, I probably would have jacked him up just a little harder.
Yeah.
Maybe give him a little extra hit points or something.
And that's something I noticed all the feedback that I have so far. It's like, hey, I went in, there was 6 players at level 6, and your module was too easy. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, it's written
And
for fucking level 4 characters, like 4 of them.
so there was one feedback I got for Dread of the Ice Devil where um
Oh, the fireball thing.
the guy said, yeah,
Yeah.
these fights are too easy. Fireballs just killed everything. You really need to fix that next time.
Yep. Yep.
Like, how many fireballs did you have? How many long rests did you give them? Because there's only one long rest written into the module.
I mean,
So
just
yeah,
thinking about this one, if they were 5th level and they had gone into that fight with all the elves, that's the easiest fight ever. Like
right.
you drop one fireball and take out 7 elves all at once, you know?
Right, so the Christmas module is 5 level 5s, and I did take that guy's just fireball wins everything comment into heart, and I wrote that into the module. Like, if you want to make this harder, activate the fireball suppression system that's built into
Yeah, yeah,
the
like it's
workshop.
actually in the module. So.
So just have it activate and just counterspell the fireball. I
Yeah,
mean,
yep, yeah. Like my players were 5th level, but they didn't have access to fireball. There were no wizards, no sorcerers, nobody who had it for once. I think that's a first, but everybody wanted to play these other archetypes, so it didn't really, leave them access to fireball.
right.
Oh, by the way, so my players, the characters' names, like it's literally a superhero party, and they did this without even talking to each other when they put their characters together. So one of the characters is Jacynthia Snowweaver. We have Roblin the Goblin. We have Barakiah the Hebrew Hammer Hammerstein, and then Yule Lad. Like that's their fucking characters' names.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah. It's like a superhero group. They're the damn Avengers.
Ugh.
But yeah, it was great. So anyway, they end up finally beating Santa, and Yule Lad was a fucking Santa Claus fanboy, big time, and he was super disappointed that Santa was actually the bad guy. So he's hanging out outside, and everybody else isn't really paying attention. So Roblin the Goblin starts looting the place and comes across the scroll, the one to switch positions, and he ends up casting it because he's an artificer. So he casts the scroll and ends up becoming Krampus, and then Krampus becomes Santa Claus at the end of the thing. And then I explained to them that there were 4 or 5 different outcomes, and now they actually want to go back and play it again at some point just to see what the other endings are. They also want to have the Krampus encounter. Like there were so many things that they missed, they never got to play around with. So it's one of the beautiful things about the way this is written because it does provide opportunity and a desire to play it multiple times. Like
Yeah.
typically, you play a module one time, you're done with it. You'll never do it again unless it's for another group. But this one, you could run 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row, and not even have the same endings.
I mean, that's what I try to do because, like I said, when I wrote this originally, it was for a friend and just give him a break from DMing. And I was like, okay, I could write it, and we could play this next year and the year after. I didn't get a chance to play it this year, for
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah. I mean,
And
it just wasn't meant to
yeah,
be this year.
but still, it's like a lot of people are playing it. A lot of people have played it, and I, it is something I do want to like go back and play every year. And there is like the Snowman Wars module as well too that I kind of want to write up and
No, you
play.
you absolutely need to write up something about the Snowman Wars. My players wanted more on that, but I couldn't give them more. They even
I
started. One of them even started questioning Frosty. They actually asked him how many people he had murdered during the Snowman Wars.
honestly, if that question comes up and you play it again, you can just kind of gesture vaguely to the room.
I should have done that. Look around you. Do you see all the dead bodies?
Yeah, because I mean that's the scene in that room that I tried to set up is that yeah they were winning. You guys were winning until I detonated the orb and fucking killed everybody.
Yep. Yeah, they never picked up on all of that. They will now because we're talking about it on the podcast. But that's all right.
So to answer that question, he gestures vaguely to the room.
Yeah. How many people did he kill during the Snowman War? You see how many people are dead in here? There's your answer.
Yeah. So like I had that map written up because the area is just not very well drawn up in any kind of campaign setting or anything like that that's official. So to have that map of that entire area is really nice to have.
Yeah.
And like it's just that area is never not used at all. Like
Yeah, there were a couple of maps, honestly, I wish I had access to for this. I mean, you already gave so many maps, which aren't even necessarily expected when you put a module together. But yeah, like a starting in would have been nice. And these are things that people can do on their own. Like I just pulled another map for an inn
yeah,
together. Uh, the snowman battle area would have been nice, but they
that's
didn't.
definitely
They
going to
ended
be
up.
a very customized map that requires someone to kind of draw out that whole thing.
Yeah.
And it changed. Like normally, but the first time it was just a room, like a tower room, like a wizard's tower,
Mhm.
and you just kind of climbed to the top, and it was just the orb and Frosty. And then I moved it down to the Great Hall because the bodies are there anyway. So then I moved it to the Great Hall and basically had the orb be what killed everybody. And like that's really not supposed to be an encounter room, but I kind of just left that in just in case someone want to have fun with that. So that was never an intended encounter, so I didn't write a map for that.
Yeah,
But
the fact is, it isn't an encounter so much as it is a conversation. It only becomes an
yeah,
encounter if the players do something they probably shouldn't do.
right.
Uh,
And that's kind of why didn't have a map for that. But the workshop, it would have been nice if I could have actually like had like a big workshop and you have to go through and like clear out different rooms of elves and stuff like that.
yeah,
Because if you look on the first page and you look at the actual drawing that Adam
yeah,
Shumpert did, um, there's like a Hydra in a Jack in a Box. Then there's like also like mechanical dragons that are shooting fireballs and stuff like that around everywhere. And there's a couple other like kind of toy to monster variants as well too. Like I wanted to have all those things in there originally, but just not enough time.
yep. And yeah, I mean, I know you were pressed for time, but it's something you could make addendums to, or even add it to another, or just make another module that sort of incorporates stuff like that at some point. Hell, anybody who's even running this, if they want to expand on it, they can easily add in more rooms that have, Jack in the Box hydras, which is a terrifying thought, by the way. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
And the first, just the one head comes out and you kill it, and like the box closes and it plays the music, and then two heads come out, and you kill it, it closes, it plays the music, and three heads come out.
uh, we actually fought a hydra this past weekend in the maw. It was horrifying. It's the only thing that we fought in the entire maw that is not undead. Man, fucking hydras, man. Still not like I start fireballing it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm doing what I can here. It kind of sucks fighting hydras.
Um, the something to note too is that the Yeti and the gibbering mouther encounter was actually written for Everyone's Been Naughty.
Okay, so the one from
So
Dread of the Ice Devil was actually originally in.
yeah, And technically, so was the mountain encounter table. So, like I said, from the original module that I wrote years ago, I cut out so much to kind of just make this a quick, point A to point B to C to D to E kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, like, there was supposed to be an investigation in the main town of Darkwell where you have to kind of go to the college and the Healers Guild and then like the library and kind of like talk to different people there to kind of get some more lore and some more information of like kind of what's happening, what's going on. And it just, unfortunately, for a one shot, it's like you would do the town center and then you would talk to the Lord Aiden, and then like you would talk to his library guy, then you would talk to the healer person, then you would talk to
Right.
the
Yeah. Let's go
college.
talk to this guy to talk to this guy. It's like a fucking Final Fantasy quest. You have to go bring me this, and then I'll give
and
you the key that goes unlocks this thing, so you can get the key to go do this thing. Yeah.
and it was long, but by the time I like roughed it out, it's like, okay, this is 3 hours of talking to people, and I think they're interesting conversations, but like that's
Those
for
are
me knowing the characters.
that's all. That's
The
also better for a campaign than it is
Yeah.
for a one shot.
So once you kind of get all the information, you're basically sent to go to the Munkar Keep and find Frosty. On the way there, you have to climb a mountain, and that mountain has the mountain mishap table, but a weaker version of it. Actually, a more deadly version of it, but not really a table. Just kind of like, "Hey, these things cause a bunch of problems for your players, and will kill them."
Mhm.
And after that, well, you have to go into a cave system to kind of get through the mountain, and that's where that Yeti encounter was originally too. And then you would show up on the Monkar Keep side.
Yeah.
So I immediately cut those out because I had used them for Dread of the Ice Devil, essentially.
Yeah. You can't make two modules with the exact same encounters in them.
Yeah, but it was I knew I needed to save time, and that's where I saved time, and that led me to the problem of here's 17 RP encounters before you fight something else. So you got to cut those out.
Yep. Yeah, you can't do that. Like I said, that's fine in a campaign, but it is not. It's definitely not okay to do it in a one-shot module. Yeah, modules they're intended to be very streamlined. It's meant to play in one evening. It'll go from point A to point B, maybe to point C, but that's it. And there have to be multiple encounters along the way. Campaigns, you're literally trying to build the story from ground up, and you're going to have NPCs and hopefully individuals that your characters care about along the way, people they meet and so forth. So having those meetings, it just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. So, I mean, all this stuff is definitely a learning experience for me, getting people's opinions on what they like and what they don't like. Like, I have one guy that says that I should stop including battle maps because he doesn't like how the battle maps look.
Well, make your own.
Okay.
If you don't like the fucking battle maps, make your own.
I mean, like, if that's your only complaint, I'll take it because that is the least of my concerns. You know.
Yeah, yeah, literally. I mean, you're doing them a favor making these battle maps. They don't have to download them. They don't ever have to look at them. If you don't like them, make your own.
Yeah.
I mean, I've made my own plenty of times. I've actually been playing on Wonder Draft today just because I have new campaign ideas. So I'm starting to put together my own maps for it. I'm not looking for other people's maps.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Is like I can't include other people's maps in my campaign setting because I don't have the commercial license to do that.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
You know.
legal side of things too.
So I can't take that advice from them to like find someone else's maps and use them. Like I literally legally can't do that. It's me stealing their work.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody wants maps, there's plenty of things out there. If you want battle maps, there's Dungeon Draft, Campaign Cartographer. I know does initially it does world maps, but if you buy some of the additions to it, you can make battle maps. And I don't remember what the specifics of it are called, but there's things you can download for it. And then
Yeah,
there's another one, Incarnate, that I've looked at a few times that lets you do stuff like that.
but I will say for everyone who has who's listening who's actually played the modules or been a part of the module, I really could use good reviews on, or just honest reviews uh, on the DM's Guild. If you go and find the product and actually open it up and give it a star rating, that would help us out a lot with just kind of getting more exposure to those products, because that's what the DM's Guild algorithms look for, is high sales and good reviews. So we
See,
have a
you
lot
didn't
of
even
high sales.
you didn't even tell me that I need to go do reviews on these.
Well, I just thought people left reviews on things once they
I
bought
don't
something and
review.
played
I
it.
review absolutely nothing at all.
Well,
I will leave a review for eBay orders and Amazon orders. I don't review anything else. So now that I know I need to go do that, I will.
bastard.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think most people leave reviews. That's not what we do.
I leave reviews all the time. I love giving feedback that's honest and critical.
Yeah, but that's you. I don't know anyone else that does it or at least talks about it. So, but yeah.
So
Anyway,
yeah, if you played it or bought it and liked it, just pop on DM's Guild, take a few moments, leave a couple good words and a star ranking or something like that, and just be honest, because if you have good information or good ideas or just good feedback, I'll take it all.
and while you're at it, give our podcast reviews on Spotify, Apple, all these other places, and give our Twitch stream reviews and review everything else that we do. I don't know if there's anywhere to do this stuff or if it's even a thing, but apparently it is.
Not really.
No.
None of those things.
Oh.
But you can just come watch the stream. It's more fun.
Yeah, just listen to the podcast. That's all, and watch the stream.
So I sent you something that was the Grumpy Dungeon Master Year in Review.
Yeah, I looked over.
That I wanted to post up. So on Spotify alone, we've been listened to 900 times. So we have like 25 episodes.
Mhm.
And since I can't do simple math in my head, let's just pull up the calculator here and do 900 divided by 25. 36 views, and that's actually our average. It's about 36-ish.
Okay.
Although we do need to make the stupid like intro, so like what our podcast is about thing for Spotify.
I thought you already did. It's about 2 DMs. You've run one too many games.
No, they want an actual like small mini 30 second to like 3 minute verbal synopsis of like the podcast and stuff. So it will play automatically when people are looking for things.
That done. We can talk
You
about
could do
that
that.
later, though. That has nothing to do with this podcast.
It does. We're growing the brand this year. 2021, we're growing everything. Follow us on
That is
everything.
the plan. Yes, follow us everywhere. So other stuff. Anything else?
No, honestly, I didn't have much. I actually have a couple topics for us to talk about, but we're already
I had a couple of brief discussions that I wanted to bring up that I came across this past weekend playing the Maw.
Go ahead.
Okay, so we've both played Baldur's Gate 3, and we know how busted the jump ability is in that game, correct?
The game is busted.
Well, that may be the case, but jump in there, they don't have a cap on your movement. Jump in D&D, there is still a cap on your movement. Like, if you can only move 30 feet, that means you can only jump 30 feet. You can't really jump beyond that. But I actually finally found a proper use for jump this past weekend, and it was to avoid difficult terrain. And I don't know if that was actually intended. I have not Googled this, I have not looked this up, but does jumping avoid difficult terrain? So, just as the example for what we ran into, the monster was 30 feet away from the guy who was trying to get to them. And they're a fighter, they have ridiculous jump ability already. They have the 10 feet of movement on solid ground. And then there was 20 feet of distance, I think, between solid land and the monster. So he runs that 10 feet and jumps the other 20 that was difficult terrain and just sort of ignores it. Was mud is what it was, like we were in a marsh. And
Okay.
I assume that's how it works. I haven't looked this up. Do you think that would work? Because I know
I
you
think
probably haven't.
so.
You haven't. I know you haven't dug into this any more than I have. But as another DM, would you have allowed that?
Yeah. So there is the rules for the standing long jump and the running long jump.
Mhm. Yeah, and it would
And
have been running long jump.
so it depends on what the actual difficult terrain is. So like in your case, you said it was just mud, so that works. You're just jumping over the mud.
Yeah. But I know the game itself, the rules do not differentiate between types of difficult terrain. It's just difficult terrain is difficult terrain.
No,
It
it
doesn't care whether it's broken, jagged landscape or if it's muck.
it does differentiate difficult terrain from it just being on the ground or part of the ground versus taking up a cube. So like the thorn ability the rangers have,
Mhm.
where it's a thorn thing that basically blankets the ground versus like the druid thorn wall, which fills the 5 foot by 5 foot cube.
Yeah, but that a 5 foot by 5 foot cube would not be difficult terrain. That sounds like that's impassable.
No, it's difficult terrain. You just take like 1d8 damage as you pass through it.
Okay.
All right, so I looked it up. Was if enter an additional square, you can't move into that square. So in fourth edition, the rules kind of like if you try to do a running long jump over difficult terrain, it would still add in that extra,
I
um,
follow. Yeah.
yeah, movement because you're entering additional squares. So your long jump was, you know,
Effectively, your
lower
long
than
jump is also halved in that
right. Your
case
long jump would
because
be
you're still
halved.
entering the square.
But since you move at half a speed in difficult terrain, if you're jumping over the difficult terrain, you're essentially not taking part in it. So
Yeah, like it just made sense to me. I was not the one involved in it, but it was. I thought about it when the situation was happening, brought it up to the DM, and he agreed with me that
oh
it
yeah.
just it makes sense.
Yeah. But like, you know what doesn't make sense?
What?
How come Junkrat's trap jumps up and hits Zenyatta when he floats over it? I don't like it.
uh, yeah, yeah. For people who don't have a clue what we're talking about, it's a video game called Overwatch. It's a little ridiculous because there's this character who doesn't ever walk on the ground. He just sort of floats, and then there's a bear trap that sits on the ground, but somehow it hits him. It's magic. Magic.
I I do like that once it does hit him, it does tie a chain around his ankle and hold him to the ground.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, I could see that.
they,
That makes more
they,
sense.
they added that in later.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
but difficult train's so hard to kind of like police half the time. Like
it is.
fourth edition had these little triangles that showed up on the maps to show difficult terrain, and they're cool. They made sense. They helped the players know, hey, it's difficult terrain. But when you have that map up like online or something like that, it kind of detracts from like how the map looks.
It does. My biggest issue with difficult terrain is against dwarves or people who have 25 feet of movement because
Yeah, it messes them up.
it really does because you don't use half squares, you don't use half space movement for Dungeons and Dragons. So, somebody who has 25 feet of movement, difficult terrain is much more effective against them than somebody with 30 feet of movement. Which I guess makes sense, but it still really sucks for the player.
Yeah, it can add a lot to a mini game, but it doesn't seem to add a lot to fifth edition. Like it doesn't show up enough, and it's not like a mechanic that really is useful. Like in Baldur's Gate, there's a dungeon you got to go through, the Dungeon of the Dead 3, I think, and like there are good portions of it where it's just knee high to hip high water, and so it's all difficult terrain, and that makes sense. You know, like you're just trudging through water, you're going to be a little bit slower, and I think that worked out well because it was almost like a mechanic of that entire area. But I also remember we were playing Star Wars, and there's a map, and the DM had like half of this area is just all mud, so it's all difficult terrain, and it just became us on one side of difficult terrain and the enemy is on the other side of difficult terrain, shooting at each other and missing for 45 minutes. So
Quit
it really
being fucking
detracted from
stormtroopers.
right. So it really detracted from the fun of the game, and just it's hard to work difficult terrain in unless it's like part of a spell, which is just how fifth edition seems to use it. Like we create this area, it becomes difficult terrain, just to kind of like do more damage as you pass through it. And that seems to be its only real use in 5th edition. Like you can sneak it in here and there to get people to be careful, like an icy sheet, you know. But
You can absolutely adjust encounters. Like you can create interesting encounters because of difficult terrain. It can be a factor. It just depends on how much the game master wants to use it and how much of a board game do you want to make out of it. Because it's primarily going to be used for positioning. If you're playing on Roll20 or whatever, if you're using miniatures and so forth, it works just fine. For people who are more interested in theater of the mind or not super concerned about positioning, and you're going to see this a lot more with newer groups of players, newer people to it. But yeah, for people who are just not looking to have that top down aspect of where exactly do I need to be standing, it doesn't work so well.
yeah.
But yeah,
But
it was just something that I thought of when we were playing that. Another thing that I came across that I thought was a little problematic. I've seen this plenty of times. As a DM, I've handled it before, and now I am the one doing it, and I still think it's a problem. Is fucking Arcane Eye. Do you know this
okay.
spell?
No, tell everybody what it is.
Arcane Eye is a spell that you can cast that creates an invisible eyeball that you can see through. It moves, you can move it 30 feet or whatever. It has dark vision and normal vision, and it's invisible. So people can't generally see it. And it just lets you go exploring. And I drop this thing at the front beginning of a dungeon, and I run that little eyeball through the entire dungeon and figure out exactly where everything is. It's capable of going, it can't go through walls, but it can squeeze through a space as small as 1 inch. So it's very difficult to not be able to get this thing into locations. It's a fantastic scouting tool, but as a DM, man, it sucks because your players know where every fucking thing is at. Unless you have, if you really want to shut it down, you can. Oh, it's an anti-magic zone. Oh, that guy was invisible, or that guy could see invisible. There are ways to shut it down, but it also feels bad to do that to the players.
Yeah. So it's the Eye of Kilrog, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what it is.
I
It's a
mean,
fantastic scouting tool, but man, it sucks.
but at the end of the day, they just know at that moment where things are. You know.
Sure, and
Uh,
things can move around. I mean, that I did it last night, and I ended up using it. Went through the whole dungeon, and before we got to the second room, things had already moved around.
yeah, I can see this being a problem, like in like certain structures, especially if they're very savage. There's always gonna be lots of holes. But it's like if it's a dwarven structure,
Hmm.
those doors are gonna be sealed. There's
Yeah,
not gonna be an inch to squeeze through.
yeah, and I
So
would
there
say it's
are,
possible
yeah.
to shut it down without completely hosing the players with it.
Oh yeah. Well, it's definitely a cool spell.
Yeah, it's a fucking useful spell. I wouldn't necessarily take it in memory, but my character in the campaign was fortunate enough to come across a wand that had 7 charges of it. So
Is it ritual? Ritual? Can you cast it via ritual or no?
I honestly I don't know. I don't think so, but I have never tried it. I've never used the spell until now. I just had it used against me a shitload. Uh, no, I don't see that. It's just 4th level divination.
I mean, it's not as bad as the that Earth Warforged that I had that could walk through walls. Just like poke my
Oh
head
yeah.
through. Okay, there's nothing over there. Poke my head through over here. Yeah, nothing over there.
Yep. Hi, I'm Shadow Cat. I'm from the X-Men. I just walk through walls. Don't mind me. Yeah, like it's not too bad just because it is a 4th level spell, and honestly, at 4th level, you're just gonna take more fireball.
That's true. That's definitely true.
Yeah, but having it in items is a problem.
One item would be fine. Just one.
Well, I have one item with 7 charges, so I can cast it 7 times, and I mean, it's not an official item. It's from some other book, so.
Well, we're coming
Uh,
up on the hour, and one thing I want to make sure we're doing at the end of our podcast from now on is actually saying where they could follow us and everything, like real professional podcasters do.
Shouldn't we just like make a permanent one of those and just tag it on to the end of each podcast?
Giving away our secrets.
Hashtag I'm cutting this and I'm using this exact thing for every single podcast now. So I don't have to record it again.
So I'm Chris, and that was Jay. Follow us on Twitter at grumpy_DMs. Make sure to watch our Twitch stream every Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at twitch.tv/Grumpy Dungeon Masters. Follow us on Facebook at Grumpy Dungeon Masters on Facebook, and Instagram is Grumpy Dungeon Masters as well. We have a YouTube channel, but there's no direct link to it yet. It's coming.
Still adding
We'll get there.
content. It's hard. YouTube is hard.
There you go.
Oh,
There's your,
yeah.
there's your
Man,
outro.
That was real fucking professional, man.
I tried.
I know. At least one of us does. I am definitely not professional.
All right. Go away,
All right,
Greg.
guys. Yeah, get out of here, Craig. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week.
Have a good gear.